Hello, and welcome to the Web Architect. Today, on our first video on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript coding, we'll be talking about setting up our coding environment in Visual Studio Code. So, what we have today, will be what I used to code in HTML, and then setting up VS Code, and then using our Finder to create files in Windows. There will be a separate video on doing it on macOS. It's not that different. I'm sure there are also some other videos on YouTube how to do that. So, welcome to the Web Architect. I'm a student that tries to produce content for coding that has not been yet done on YouTube. So we're talking stuff like uploading tutorials that no one has yet done on YouTube. I try to make these as quick as possible, and these tutorials will be posted on my website when it is finished, and on as well as GitHub. This unit and course will be creating basic HTML websites with implementations of CSS and some light JavaScript, debugging and code organization, and of course posting it on GitHub pages, which is the easiest, not exactly web hosting software, but it's the easiest way to upload code. Please refer to our course syllabus, which will be posted soon, on the exact course contents. And like that, let's begin. So, setting up VS Code. So what dev tools I use? So there are many types of code writers, Vim, WebStorm, but I like to use Visual Studio Code. It has so many extensions, it's free, lightweight, and it has free support for macOS, Linux, and Windows, and it's an open source software and works with all major coding languages. Now, others have other preferences, but I prefer to use this. So what web browser do I use? So I tend to use Chrome because of the dev tools for things like CSS and JavaScript, but you can also use something like Mozilla for developers, but that's all up to you. So let's set up Visual Studio Code. So our first order of business is going to be downloading Visual Studio Code. And by that, we're going to go to VS Code. And we're going to go download for your operating system. You can also actually use Visual Studio Code in your web using vscode.dev. We will have a video on how to do that. But download it for Windows, or you can go through the Microsoft Store and do it from there. You download it. I already have it installed, but it is as simple as downloading it. Or for Mac and Linux, just download it off their website. So after that, install VS Code using their installer, and now let's move into Visual Studio Code for installing all our extensions. So as you can see, I already have some code open, but let's go over to extensions. So the extensions I suggest are ESLint. Of course, these are in the description. ESLint and HTMLHint are for your coding, and then something I like is LiveServer. LiveServer lets you launch all your websites into your browser. This only works for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I don't think it works for others, but it definitely helps for stuff like live reloading. So once you have all these three extensions turned on, you will make sure all these extensions are installed. And I also suggest installing an extension called VS Code Icons. This one gives you these icons right here that can help you with development. I prefer them, but it's just preferences. So all these are just for your, so the three, HTMLHint and the other one, ESLint, are just for linting, so for debugging. But this LiveServer one is for deployment, sort of, so you can test it while you're coding. And there are also others there are also other extensions that are similar, but I suggest using these. So once you have these installed, we can now move on to our second part, which is actually installing creating the files and folders. So now let's begin by creating our files so that we can edit them in VS Code. So we'll begin by going into our Finder and going to your desired directory. For me, that is my passport D drive. Go to my HTML examples, we'll click New, we'll click Folder, and do website for coding. This will be the folder name that we will be using. Then I will be doing entering the file, and then as you can see, it's empty. So let us move into Visual Studio Code right here, and click File, Open Folder, and then we're going to move down to our desired directory, HTML examples, website for coding, and leave it here. Select folder, and now the directory will open. Now, we are not done. Of course, press yes to trust authors, and now do new file. We're going to do index.html, and then we will do styles.s, and you can see we have our HTML CSS files, and now we will create our app JavaScript file. So now we have our 3 files that we will need to code, which we will use in the next lesson. Now, you can save it, and you are done here. So, that is it. You have just set up your Visual Studio Code environment, and you are ready to start coding. So, final tips. So we downloaded VS Code, we added extensions, and we created files. Our next lesson will be basic HTML formatting to help with debugging later and testing live server for development, and a bit of basic HTML. I will be posting a lesson 1 through 5 course below and a syllabus hopefully by the end of the week. I thank you for watching The Web Architect. I am Lorenzo Finazzi, and I hope to see you in our next lesson. Thank you.